Welcome to Have You Read It? The channel where we bring books to life, one summary at a time. Today we're tackling Celeste Headlee's Do Nothing: How to Break Away from Overworking, Overdoing and Underliving. This book is a deep exploration of our modern obsession with productivity and efficiency, and how it's actually making us miserable. Headlee argues that we're trapped in a cult of efficiency, and she offers practical ways to reclaim our time and our lives. Headlee starts by setting the stage, pointing out that this feeling of being overworked isn't new. She quotes Bertrand Russell from 1932, who was already criticizing the cult of efficiency and its impact on our capacity for lightheartedness and play. The book then introduces Headlee's personal journey. A self-described driven person, she found herself exhausted and overwhelmed even after achieving financial stability. She realized that her stress wasn't caused by her circumstances, but by her habits. She was constantly filling her time with new tasks and obligations, driven by a need to be productive. This leads her to a broader exploration of the cult of efficiency. It is defined as a belief in constant activity and finding the most efficient way to accomplish everything. Members of this cult believe their efforts are saving time and improving their lives. But Headlee argues that this efficiency is often an illusion. A key theme that she introduces early on is pace. The modern world celebrates fast-paced lifestyles, but Headlee questions whether faster is always better. Are we sacrificing enjoyment and fulfillment in our quest for speed? She highlights the slow movement as a counter-trend, emphasizing the value of savoring experiences and slowing down from time to time. Headlee reflects on her own experience with burnout and how it led her to question her lifestyle. She shares a pivotal moment when a mentor advised her to create space in her calendar to allow for breathing room. She also recounts a 2-week train trip she took around the United States, which forced her to disconnect from the internet and reassess her relationship with technology. To understand the origins of our obsession with efficiency, Headlee goes back in history. She challenges the assumption that people have always worked long hours and argues that our modern work habits are relatively recent. She cites historian James E. Thorold Rogers, who found that medieval peasants actually worked fewer hours than we do today and enjoyed more vacation time. Before the Industrial Revolution, work was not the central organizing principle of life. People worked in spurts, followed by periods of rest and celebration. The Industrial Revolution brought about a dramatic shift in labor practices. The invention of the steam engine and the rise of factories transformed the nature of employment. People moved from rural areas to cities and began working long hours in monotonous jobs. A significant change was that time began to equal money. Employees were paid by the hour, and the longer they worked, the more money they earned. This led to a relentless pursuit of efficiency and productivity. Headlee recounts the abuses of the early industrial age, including child labor and unsafe working conditions. She highlights the struggles of labor unions to secure shorter hours and better conditions for workers. The book discusses the Protestant work ethic, which emphasized hard work and frugality as virtues. Max Weber argued that the Protestant work ethic was a major factor in the rise of capitalism. Laziness became seen as a sin. Headlee explores the American dream and the myth of the self-made man. Figures like Benjamin Franklin and Horatio Alger promoted the idea that anyone could achieve success through hard work and determination. However, she points out that social mobility is often overestimated and that many Americans believe they can rise through the income ranks, even though the reality is much more difficult. She also mentions that some portion of Americans think that the harder you work, the more the success. The discussion progresses to how the fight over working hours shifted to culture after labor. Laws limited employers' ability to demand excessive hours, and how society weaponized consumerism. Marketing was created to drive the purchasing of more goods, not necessarily needed. Headlee also discusses, in detail, the experiment run by Sanford DeVoe and Julian House about the perception of time while listening to music. The experiment proved that when people are reminded about the monetary value of their time, They often are unable to enjoy activities and experiences as a result. Despite working fewer hours on average, many people feel more overwhelmed than ever. This is partly because the line between work and home has blurred, with technology making it possible to be on call 24/7. She calls this polluted time. The lines between work and home are less clear than ever. People are always on call. There are many workers who don't get paid vacation, but even those who do choose not to use it. The economist Gary Becker is mentioned by name. She also discusses Parkinson's law, which states that work expands to fill the time available for its completion. This means that even if we become more efficient, we will simply find new tasks to fill the extra time. Headlee explains how Edward Bernays used what he learned in the war and applied the same tactics to companies in peacetime. The book explores the rise of the tech billionaire and the glorification of workaholic CEOs. This creates a culture where long hours and constant activity are seen as signs of success. She brings in Gary Vaynerchuk, who has reached the bestseller list 4 times, and explains to fans how the straightest road to success involves working 19 hours a day every day for the last 20 years because it's the only gear he ever knew. She then challenges the idea that long hours are good for business. She cites the example of a Swedish hospital that reduced work hours for nurses and doctors, resulting in increased productivity and fewer sick days. Moreover, she speaks of the change in the concept of status. She explains how our need to flaunt wealth shifted from material wealth to one of business. Headlee points out a gender dimension to the problem of overwork. While research suggests that women may be slightly better at multitasking than men, they are also more likely to feel stressed by it. They're also often subject to greater pressure to balance work and family responsibilities. She references work by sociologist Ali Russell Hochschild and speaks about arsenic time. Next, the conversation shifts to the subject of what happens at home. She speaks of quality time with the children. Also, the book goes over a study that shows, in general, children were better off when their mothers worked. That's in part because if the mother was working less, there was more attention placed on those interactions, and so the children felt additional pressure. Headlee emphasizes the importance of defining our own values and priorities, rather than blindly following societal expectations. The conversation in the book switches over and asks, do we live to work? She challenges the notion that work is essential for human happiness, and that people derive meaning from their employment. She references advice from Elon Musk, and then pushes back on this idea, reminding people that before employment, families were key. She references the Protestant faith, and then refers to a story from Aesop about the grasshopper and the ant. In that story, there is the belief that idleness equals a waste of time. The book then shifts and considers why so many people resist these ideas. Perhaps they are too difficult to put into practice. So Headlee tries to convince the reader that even people like Charles Darwin only worked for about 4 hours per day, and that the fire ants with the purpose of only laying back may also have a purpose. The talk then gets into the ways our minds work. She discusses how our drive to long hours gets in the way of our actual happiness. Headlee then gets into a debate between Noam Chomsky, the linguist, social critic, cognitive scientist, and philosopher. She has spent about 90 minutes sparring with the French philosopher and social theorist Michel Foucault. The two men were attempting to answer one of the most enduring questions in all of human history. Is there a universal human nature? Also, she speaks about the essential parts of human life, such as food, water, shelter, sleep, human connection, and novelty. Headlee speaks about primatologist Frans de Waal, and how many things that humans do are not unique, and how survival is hard without a group. Another key part is the ability to communicate. It is essential and important because humans survive not alone but in groups. Therefore, human connection and interaction are important. The book then goes into detail about an experiment where the participants listened to the same story. As they listened, they were hooked up to an fMRI functional magnetic resonance imaging machine. The researchers discovered that the brain waves of the dozen people listening to the same story began to mirror those of the storyteller. The point being, human connection is important. She states that we excel at these things and we need them in order to be healthy. I compared that list with my current work habits, and it became immediately clear that I was not creating an environment or a schedule that allowed space for those activities. Those activities are language, a need to belong that fosters empathy, rule-making, music, and play. Also, she points out how dangerous it is that people are being disconnected from what's really going on. The world can be cruel, and a lot of folks don't realize how some other people can feel. Empathy can be powerful. This then leads to the discussion about good and bad. That, in the end, we really need rules to survive. There are lots of reasons to get rid of the phone, including tech and work from home. So many people are now more overworked and stressed than ever because during this era, there are no rules. Because of the long hours, there is barely time to exercise, and the cost of that can be disastrous. The author also mentions an experiment about the importance of a smile. There is no need to get rid of the tech, but rather we can create systems that are actually helpful and not overbearing. For that, we need more than tools. There are so many things the author is doing. She's working at having better sleeping, and there is lots to be done. The issue with the constant drive and the issues to try and be innovative, all that, is the most important. A discussion about constant growth in the consumer economy leads us to the final conclusions about our topic. That we have to focus on our personal issues, not business. We have this constant worship, and you should never be good. You should be so powerful because of the people and all you should do. The great things are now there. That's just great. Here are some practical steps Headlee outlines in the book to summarize what all of that meant to reclaim our lives. Challenge your perceptions. Recognize that your feelings of busyness may not be accurate. Track your time to get a clear picture of how you're spending it. Take the media out of your social. Limit your time on social media and prioritize real-life connections with friends and family. Step away from your desk. Take regular breaks throughout the day to rest your mind and body. Schedule leisure time into your calendar. Invest in leisure. Pursue hobbies and activities that you enjoy for their own sake, not for their productive value. Make real connections. Prioritize face-to-face interactions and build strong relationships with people in your community. Take the long view. Focus on your end goals and values rather than getting caught up in the pursuit of short-term achievements. The book's main takeaway is that we need to reclaim our time and our lives from the cult of efficiency. We need to prioritize well-being, connection, and purpose over constant activity and productivity. Easy to remember heuristics from the book are: time is not money. Don't let the pursuit of efficiency dominate your life. Leisure is essential. Make time for activities that you enjoy for their own sake. Connection is key. Prioritize real-life relationships over digital interactions. Purpose matters. Focus on your values and goals, not just your to-do list. The overall goal is to change your perspective on time and what activities can be worth your while. This takes into account the importance of downtime and empathy. Humans are designed to pulse and take time off. Make people remember that you have them in mind and treat them well. Ultimately, Headlee encourages us to do nothing in order to truly live. This doesn't mean being lazy or unproductive, but rather reclaiming our time and attention from the relentless demands of modern life and investing them in things that truly matter. Thanks for watching. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button so you never miss our next book dive.